I have a theory that Susie Deltarune is on to Chris. I think Susie knows more than she's letting on. And I think there are hints that she knows even as early as chapter 1. I think she knows that Chris made the dark fountains. Alright, let me drop the serious act here. Before we continue, can y'all hit the subscribe button? I know there's a lot of eyes probably going to watch this, hopefully, maybe. And I do want to mention, if I get 10,000 subscribers, I will do a Mew Mew cosplay. And or whatever cosplay you guys want. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be Mew Mew. In fact, I'll put a poll on my community post. So after this, go check the community tab on my channel. And while you're there, you might as well subscribe. I really do appreciate the support I'm getting on my Deltarune theories. So, thank you guys very much for that, and hopefully I can make this into a job. Back to the video. There's a few reasons I think this. Firstly, Susie makes this face here a lot, especially when she's suspicious. Now, when Chris and Susie meet back up to try to go back into the dark world after Asgore kicks them out, Susie actually looks at Chris and asks them if they saw anybody suspiciously, right? But then she justifies it immediately after. And when I first saw this scene, even at the time, I was very much thinking that Susie was she was playing it off. She didn't actually consider that Chris might have made the dark fountain. Because obviously, Chris has been her friend for 5 entire chapters at this point, and in her mind, why would Chris even want to make dark fountains, right? So what I think is happening is she's on to us, and this might be the final straw. I think in chapter 6, we might actually see Susie confront Chris about the conspiracy, the dark worlds, everything. The soul. I don't know how people forgot this, but Susie saw the soul in chapter 4 and asked Chris about it, and she's like, oh, is that your... Never mind. She blowed it off. And I feel like people are just too easy. I feel like people believe way too easily that Susie has no idea what's going on. Susie may be goofy. Susie may be stupid at sometimes, but she's not that stupid. She's definitely on to Chris. And I have way more evidence to prove this. And I think this has actually been hinted at through the entire game. In chapter 1, at the climax of the entire chapter, Susie overhears Lancer talking about how he wanted to keep the Lightners in the prison, right? And she confronts him about this, and she's like questioning about it. And what she does here is she assumes what Lancer did, and she's like, oh, well, I guess I have no friends then. Why would anyone want to be my friend, right? That's the line that everyone remembers. And she starts fighting Lancer. And so at the end of the whole fight, she figures out that Lancer actually didn't want to betray her and was actually trying to protect her. And so I feel like this is the exact same scenario, right? Because Susie learned that if she never drops her guard down, she might hurt people she likes. So I believe this is exactly what Toby Fox is trying to do. Draw parallels between this, right? She trusts Lancer, and I'm sure she might even trust Chris even more, right? So why would she confront Chris about it? In the moment, she actually did question Chris. Just not that Chris made a dark fountain or anything, but I'm sure she's putting the pieces together. I am 100, if not 200% sure. In chapter 6, there will be a scene where Susie and Chris are alone, maybe with the soul, maybe not, but I'm sure Susie will actually ask Chris what's wrong, right? And in the weird route, she's onto us even more with Noelle, right? In the aborted weird route too. So I feel like people are not giving Susie enough credit here. I don't know why people aren't doing this, but she's most certainly onto us. There's no doubt about it. We're way past the halfway point right now. And at some point, she has to find out, right? This is not something that's gonna be a secret for the entire game. And I feel like she already has been onto us since chapter 3, I'd have to assume. She might even, I'm not gonna lie, I think she might even know that Chris made the chapter 3 Dark Fountain. Or at least she's thinking about that possibility, right? Because obviously the knight wouldn't just go in there while everyone is sleeping. It's very improbable, at least, that the knight would go in there while everyone is sleeping and make a dark fountain and run away, go tell Tenna, all this stuff while they're just sleeping. So I feel like the only reason Susie isn't questioning Chris at all is because of what happened with Lancer and her just assuming what's wrong and, you know, hurt someone. And, you know, maybe trying to understand why Chris is doing this, or even if Chris is actually betraying them. She needs to figure out if Chris is actually working with the knight, and if so, are they doing it willingly or not? Because those are two very, very different things. It's very clear that Susie trusts Chris with their life, obviously, but she's suspicious. You know, hindsight is 20/20, right? Susie picks up on things throughout the story, like with the whole spam to Neo fight, with the weird route, right? With Ralze not telling the complete truth and her, you know, not saying anything the first 4 or 5 times, right? And at the end of chapter 5, right, the ending of this, Susie says she wants to talk to Chris about something, right? And I'm not saying that she wasn't going to talk about Noelle, but I feel like she also has something else to say. This is completely, I have no evidence for this, but I have a feeling that Susie wanted to confront Chris at the end of chapter 5, or at the end of the Dark Fountain, but because Chris's dad got kidnapped, maybe she just, you know, didn't say anything or didn't want to say anything, because obviously, why would Chris want to kidnap their own dad? She's doubting what she's seeing or what she's realizing because she trusts Chris, right? She's basically doing what she should have done with Lancer, but doing it at the wrong time. So yeah, those are my thoughts though. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Again, if we had 10,000 subscribers, or even, I'd probably do it at like 5,000 or something. I really don't know. Maybe I'll do it at 1K. Hopefully you guys enjoyed what I had to say. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments why or why not you agree with me. And, you know, I'll be reading through all the comments like I usually do, right? And maybe I'll follow up video to responding to the comments in video form. So, yeah. Peace.